Embarking on a spring cleanup of foreign policy, Canada is looking to cement a reset of ties with India in the post-Trudeau years. Ottawa has announced that it no longer sees New Delhi as being linked to violent crimes on Canadian soil, right ahead of Prime Minister Carney's visit this week. Now, both nations, they appear ready to turn over a new leaf.
The visit comes at an important juncture in normalization of India-Canada bilateral relations. The two prime ministers have earlier agreed to pursue a constructive and balanced partnership grounded in mutual respect for each other's concerns and sensitivities, strong people-to-people ties, and growing economic complementarities. The forthcoming meeting between the leaders will provide an opportunity to reaffirm the positive momentum and shared vision of India and Canada in building a forward-looking partnership.
And joining me here in the studio is RT India correspondent Rujita Thete. Rujita, Canada, it appears to be recalibrating its approach. Take us through the initial part where the relationship basically deteriorated between the two countries, and what exactly has changed now?
So right now, India-Canada ties are entering a new phase where they'll be calibrating a reset kind of a situation. And this comes after a prolonged diplomatic chill that was going on between the two nations. And this decline between their ties was neither abrupt nor incidental. It followed the incident that happened in 2023 after then Prime Minister Justin Trudeau had publicly alleged an Indian link to the killing of Sikh separatist Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Let's take a look at what he had said.
Over the past number of weeks, Canadian security agencies have been actively pursuing credible allegations of a potential link between agents of the government of India and the killing of a Canadian citizen, Hardeep Singh Nijjar.
However, back then, New Delhi had rejected all these accusations and it had termed these accusations as motivated and absurd. Let's listen into what ME had said back then.
His remarks to us, it illustrates once again the kind of political space that has been given in the country, in Canada, to separatism, to extremism and violent people who practice violence. This not only impacts India-Canada relations, but also encourages a climate of violence and criminality in Canada to the detriment of its citizens.
And what followed after this back and forth was that there was expulsion of diplomats on both sides, there was suspension of visa from both sides again, and there was a visible freeze between the high-level political engagement that was going on back then. And the trade talks had also stalled between the two nations that came under early progress trade agreement. Along with this, the entire strategic dialogue between the two nations had also slowed down and paused. And now Trudeau's attack against India was actually to gain more political needs for his own nations. So it was a personal agenda also, because Sikhs comprise of a big chunk of the Canadian population. They comprise of 1.86 million Indian diaspora in Canada, and they carry a massive influence when it comes to elections also. So what explains this recalibration that is coming from Canada's side here is that there are a few examples and few reasons for this. The first one is very obvious, which is the economic realism that is happening here. Because the bilateral goods, that is the trade, it stands between $8.6 billion for the financial year of 2025, and Indian exports was $4.2 billion worth of goods to Canada, while imports are slightly higher than that, marking $4.4 billion. Now, beyond all of this merchandise, there's also Canada's service exports to India, which comes to a total of $15.2 billion. The second reason for this recalibration is the geopolitical recalibration that's happening, because Canada's strategic experts see India as a very key component for diversifying their Indo-Pacific needs and plans. And along with this, there's US tension also, which are ongoing in the background, and an increasingly multipolar world. So right now, we should actually listen to what Carney had said about this.
that the rules-based order is fading, that the strong can do what they can and the weak must suffer what they must. And this aphorism of Thucydides is presented as inevitable, as the natural logic of international relations reasserting itself. And faced with this logic, there is a strong tendency for countries to go along to get along, to accommodate, to avoid trouble, to hope that compliance will buy safety. Well, it won't. But more recently, great powers have begun using economic integration as weapons. Tariffs as leverage, financial infrastructure as coercion, supply chains as vulnerabilities to be exploited.
So now what is going to reshape the relations between the two nations is actually the quite back-channeling talks that will happen rather than the show and of the entirety that would go on publicly, because India is very firm on its stance that their national security and interest would be their priority and it's non-negotiable. On the other hand, Canada is likely to balance the rule of law optics with the entire economic realism thing. So Carney's visit may actually lay a new foundation for an improved tie between the two nations.
All right. Rujita Thete, thank you very much for getting us all those details.